Our next question will come from Chloe Coney, and her question will be directed to Mr. Benjamin.
Mr. Benjamin, in hearing that our community needs economic development, what are your plans to build Tampa into a wealth-generating city, one that will attract and grow local businesses?
I support a very logical, progressive plan that deals with urban development in Tampa. I would like to revitalize the inner city to bring about the density that our infrastructure truly needs to create a vibrant community down here. I oppose a lot of the city's current policies when it comes to urban redevelopment. I don't think that we needed a citizen-funded football stadium. I have issues with the stale economic plan, such as what happened with Channelside, what happened with Ybor City, over $50 million going into the trolley that only benefits tourists, really, and doesn't benefit the needs of the community at large. And I think it's very important that people realize taxpayers are funding this, and there's not very many people who go to work and back on that trolley. That trolley is chiefly mainly used by tourists. I think this is a huge question. Economic development has been lagging behind for a long time as suburbanization has perpetuated in post-World War II America, as urban decay has set in. Instead of perpetuating the policies that lead to a ghetto to begin with, that lead to poverty in the inner city, I would like to propose a small business enterprise program.
Thank you, Mr. Benjamin, for your answer. Ms. Ferlita, your turn.
Yes, thank you. In order to bring back business entities into the inner city, we have to utilize some of the advantages we have to encourage people to do that. For instance, we have the QIT, we have the QTR, economic development in terms of enterprise zones, impact fees. The Committee of 100 with the Chamber of Commerce is certainly the arm of economic development. I am a small business owner in the inner city, and I can appreciate the fact that it's tough to get started. I see some vacant property in front of my store, broken down, dilapidated, and I think it is wonderful that we have the opportunity to encourage them in terms of impact fees and those type of things that give small businesses a jump start.
Next we go to Mr. Benjamin for rebuttal.
Yes. If I'm not mistaken, that property adjacent to your store is owned by you. But what we can talk about here is that economic development in Tampa needs to be led by small business growth. We can't continue to try and attract these kind of businesses to Tampa that really don't help generate a better way of life for people in our community. I would like to promote entrepreneur opportunities in the inner city, job and skill training for people, a small business enterprise program that would help to waive or stagger impact fees that make it so exorbitantly expensive for small businesses to get started in the city.
Thank you. Thank you, panelists, for your questions. We will now enter into the second phase of the candidates forum, in which candidates will have an opportunity to ask questions of each other. We will begin with Kelly Benjamin's question to Rose Ferlita. Ms. Ferlita, you will have 1 minute to respond.
Rose, as part of my platform, part of my policy, when I get elected to City Council, I would like to implement a living wage because I think that it's really wrong for people who work full-time jobs in the city of Tampa not to be able to afford health benefits, not to be able to live lives to the fullest in this city and still live below the poverty line when they're working 40 hours or more a week. Would you support such a policy?
Ms. Ferlita, you have 1 minute to respond.
Thank you. First of all, one of your comments a while ago about ownership of the property that belongs to me does not belong to me, Mr. Kelly. I want that on record. In terms of a living wage, we have two ways to go. Obviously, when the city puts out RFPs for different projects to different corporations to respond, we can either support a living wage or we can support an issue, supposedly that, as an example, that a union would come in and perform the project for us. If we don't give them a living wage and we support a union as opposed to a living wage, then of course those costs are already factored in. We can either support a living wage or we can have unions take care of it. If we don't, ultimately, if the person does not have an ample income, we will end up paying for it at the end. So I think in terms of health care, like emergencies at Tampa General, I think there is some validity to a living wage, and yes, I would consider supporting that.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Ferlita, it's your turn to ask a question of Mr. Benjamin. And Mr. Benjamin, you will have 1 minute to respond.
Over the last 4 years, this community invested their support in me. I think my leadership and my record proves that. In comparison to my platform and my performance, I would like to ask Mr. Kelly, what do you bring to the table in terms of professional achievements, involvement in your community, academic acknowledgments? What do you bring to the table that you think can compete with the leadership that I've given this city?
Okay. Ready?
Mr. Benjamin?
Yes. I'm a lifelong resident in Tampa, and I'm a very hard-working community activist. I worked on stopping these DC-3 planes that were spreading a toxic poison over our city, malathion, in 1997. As far as academic achievements, I'm a recipient of the National Security Education Program scholarship. I graduated University of South Florida with a 3.7 GPA and focusing on urban studies issues. I think I bring a fresh perspective to this race. I don't have a lot of experience in the political realm. However, I think that gives me no experience in political double talk, with corruption, with scandals, and with the misuse of public funds down there in City Hall. So it should be very refreshing for the city of Tampa to vote for me.